Welcome to the Repurpose Your Purpose podcast. My name is Aurora Minigallo and I am your host. I am really excited to welcome all new listeners and returning listeners to my podcast. If you are not familiar with the topic, I talk about anything and everything that relates to doing work you love, whether you're still looking for it or you found it and you're getting deeper and deeper and growing in your passion. And today I'm super excited to have here with me Colleen O'Connor. Hi, Colleen.
Hello, Aurora. Hello, everyone.
So, well, I want to ask you so many questions. How about we do the usual thing, which is I start by introducing you with a little bit about you, okay?
Okay.
And then we'll jump into the questions. All right, let me get ready here. So Colleen O'Connor is a certified Yuen Method master practitioner. The Yuen Method is a wellness and energy clearing technique that she uses to improve all areas of people's life, including health, money, career, relationships, fitness, and youthfulness. She combines her over 30 years of management, marketing, and HR experience with energy clearing and intuitive insights to take clients from fear to clear. A fan of comedy and mysteries, she brings a light-hearted approach and is passionate about finding the truth in a client's situation. She also currently works as a resume review coach for Indeed.com. So I want to say that I tried one of Colleen's sessions and wow, like I was really impressed. And I'm not big into energy work. I tend to be very skeptical, but I had a good feeling from Colleen and I was just so impressed. So I'm really glad that you're here on the podcast to talk about this, and I'm sure I'm gonna have even more questions when we once we start talking about the UN method. But before we get to that, um, I'm curious really about your career change. What were you doing before, and how did you even get into this? How did you find the UN method? I never even heard about it until I met you.
Great question. And first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really happy to be here and very excited. Um, so the Yuen method, I got introduced to it actually back in 2002. I was dating somebody who was very into anything spiritual, into the healing arts, and he dragged me to a demonstration that Dr. Yuen was doing, and I immediately was impressed. It just like a whole light bulb went on. I was involved with it for a couple of years. Then I drifted away from it for many years, and then I had a situation in 2016 where I could not eat for I could not like bite and chew food for several months, about 3 4 months. I was doing everything, doctors, therapy, um, chiropractic, all sorts of modalities. Nothing was moving it. It was getting it worse. And a friend came over to help me with moving something, and one of Dr. Yuen's books fell on the floor in front of me. And I had been asking for an answer. And that triggered me to look him up online and see, it had been at that point probably 14 years, whatever the math is. And I saw that he had a YouTube channel, and he and his partner Marnie were doing these demonstrations where people were calling in, and he was resolving their issues just like he used to do in the demonstrations. But now the method had changed very significantly. It got much faster, even more powerful than back in the day. And I would just start listening to these, and I would feel different by the end of it. I wouldn't feel completely shifted. So I decided to book a session with him. And after months and months, the next day I was eating. So to me, that was a huge indicator. It was also answering a question for myself, which was about my career path, and that I knew, I had previously been a yoga instructor. I had been doing some work in nutrition on the side. I'd worked in fitness, and always been interested in healing arts, and it just, the light bulb went on for me that, okay, this is my path. So I had a few follow-up sessions with him and just sort of obsessively started learning it for myself. And then about a year later, I was working with clients. And when I started working with clients, I really started to even to the speed of my ability to resolve people's issues was getting a lot faster, rather than just working on my own and learning.
Wow. So, okay, in my head, I was gonna ask you all these questions about the career change first, but why don't we talk about this UN method first? Because it feels like so. All right, for uh, let me say this way, okay? Because I might not come across that way, but I'm in general like somebody very skeptical. Not cynical, okay? I'm not cynical, but I'm skeptical, meaning that I'm like, I don't know, how can somebody know? But what I experienced with you, it's very hard to put in words. So I'm gonna try to describe it a little bit. First of all, I felt that you were not giving me energy or taking energy. It was very neutral, and it felt to me as if you were opening up some blocks so some things could just naturally come out. That's what it felt. I don't know what it, I don't know if this was what it was supposed to be, but this is what it felt like to me, right? And it was very effective. Like I felt, first of all, I felt it while it was going on. I felt it in my body. I feel things in my stomach in general, and so it felt like my stomach was getting unblocked. But then I felt like there were certain things that usually would trigger me in my thinking. In particular, it was like saying no to somebody that bugs me. So setting some boundaries. Um, and then it was possible. Right. So I really felt like there was an energetic block that was opened and disappeared in a way. How the heck does that work? What is this?
Yes, I hear you. And actually, if Dr. Yuen were here, because he did pass away summer 2023, he would say, well, I don't wait, this isn't healing, this isn't energy work. Because I call it energy clearing because I don't know how else to initially to describe it to someone, just to give it a word. What's happening is you have, we all have this incredible physical intelligence. We have a nervous system that operates our whole being, our body, and also connects with our mind and our spirit. And as the person who is, if you're the subject, you're the person receiving, i'm not I'm not healing you, because that is kind of an outdated concept. I'm just connecting my nervous system to your nervous system energetically, and almost like a computer programmer who's going in to help fix your computer. They're not getting emotional about it. They're not downloading healing to you, right? Or giving you energy. They're just neutrally, objectively looking at what's going on and flipping. Maybe they're removing an old program and downloading something new, and they are activating the computer to fix itself in a way. And that is everything you just said is perfect, because I'm not transmitting anything to you. I'm not taking anything from you. I'm just seeing what's going on and active redirecting your energy, your body, to put itself back into optimal functioning and order.
That's so interesting to me because my coaching is also really based on this idea that there is innate well being inside of us. And so it's all this thinking and all this other stuff that we put on top very innocently. We don't do it on purpose.
Right.
It messes us up. But I also can see that some of that can be talked about. We can experience a way to like go a bit, some of that can be worked at that level, but there's other conditioning and other, I like how you call it, programming, that is at a very physical level or beyond what is conscious. Essentially, we feel it in our body, but we don't even know what that, or if we know intellectually, we still kind of get rid of it.
Exactly. And that is what happens. So much of the time someone will come to me something that seems like it's a physical issue because they're feeling it physically. It's a pain and ache
Mm.
or whatever's going on. But most of the time, at least initially, it's not coming from the physical. It's because of something mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and it lodges somewhere in their body and then affects their ability to feel like fully in their flow.
Wow. So before this, you were working in marketing communication as an employee, right? And now, like, this is such a different,
It is
like,
very
talk about radical career change. Here we go. Um, I'm curious, like, what was surprising about this change, or what have you learned about yourself about this change?
well. I always was a kind of an undercover intuitive in
Mm.
the corporate or nonprofit world at different times. And so in some ways it's always been there, but I never could fully express all of that in a traditional conventional work environment. And I had the Yuen Method business I was doing on the side while I had a full day job for a long time. And that was actually coming to a close a couple of years ago, and I needed to have some form of a job, but I wanted something that was super flexible because I really wanted to give more energy and time and availability to my Yuen Method business. So I actually used the Yuen Method to clear my own energy and line everything up and get a new a job because I could then work as little or as much, which led me to the Indeed.com work, which is doing resume reviews for people. And with all that said, what I have been, as I've been putting even more, growing more my business acumen and knowledge and um, how to bring in more clients and so forth and rework my business lately, and especially this whole year, I'm really seeing where I need to clear the sort of I don't want to say this so dramatically, but kind of like old habits, patterns, programs, and even traumas from past work experiences that I'm encountering and having to clear for myself and work with my mentors to move through those because they're deeply ingrained. I grew up in the Midwest with very strong work ethic, nose literally nose to the grindstone kind of programming, and realizing where that is coming into play as I have my own business, and that I've stopped myself. I feel like I'm right now actually going through a very big learning curve of where that's affecting me and in the background, and
Mm.
working through clearing all those blocks of saying, wait a minute, I didn't leave a job in the corporate world and being an undercover intuitive to then treat myself the same way as the person who is running my business. And so that's I think what's been up for me the most lately.
So it's so interesting that you say this. This episode will be published a few weeks from now. So what I say would make sense, timeline wise. That's why I'm saying this in the podcast. But I just recently released a couple of episodes where I really talk about how we bring the employee mentality to self-employment, and how we can bring inside self-employment mentality, to the employee, like that kind of thing. It's very innocent, a lot of that. But also as a coach, like people that come to change careers, so many. I was really shocked, honestly, to encounter this in my work. So many have had bad experiences, a lot of the people that contact me, and I think I've had bad experiences. Like, it's so common.
Mhm.
And we I don't know, I feel like we don't realize it, how common it is to be affected by a work environment that's not supportive of who
Yeah.
we are.
Yes.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that you say, being an undercover intuitive, because also I think a lot of people are very sensitive and they
Yeah,
have strong intuition, and then they find themselves in organizations or in spaces where that's not valued, where they can't really use their gift. Um,
yes, absolutely. And I think that's why those of us who are like that, I find that, well, I find that many of my clients tend to be like that as well. I think because we tend to attract people who are like
mm,
us,
mm,
who tend to be the person who can sense and perceive things and feels like, am I going crazy that I perceive it this way and everybody else says this or that? And
right?
yeah,
Yeah. So what are some of the things that I know you mentioned the eating, the problems with eating that you had, but what are some other examples of things that you experienced yourself, or maybe you've seen that you can share that's not, like you don't give away something confidential or anything, but
sure, sure.
some examples of things that maybe the UN method helped you with or helped you realize and can help people with.
Sure. I'll start with career since that's what a lot of what you're working on. I've had situations where I worked with someone extensively for many months where it was the person wanted to work on back issues that they were having really intense pains up and down their back. They were having memory issues, almost like traumatic blockages. And we kept working through it. There was a lot of different layers and levels going on. And then we came to a session where the person realized, I don't want to do my job anymore. I want to go back to having my own business. The person had their own business, and it took a huge hit during the financial collapse of 2008, 2009.
Mm.
So we cleared all of that, and they felt ready to go. And so they're back in the game, and I say back in the game, and their back issues were gone after that because their work environment was again not supportive. The person was so capable and better off doing their own working directly with their own clients because then they didn't have to deal with kind of some of the BS of their
Office
of
politics and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, some of the disorder and dysfunction and disorganization of
Mm.
their workplace. That was one thing. And I had a client who was applying for a position that was a much higher level position at a like a really great job at a company, a big, really well known company that they were really excited for. Their pay was going to increase, their position, everything, but they were super nervous. They had some concerns subconsciously and you know on many levels about almost leaving behind their existing coworkers.
Mm.
And they also were having this really intense interview process where they were it was during COVID, and they had literally 6 hours of interviews on Zoom,
Wow.
like a whole day.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of sessions to clear all that up, and she got the position and making a lot more money than she was before. So she was pretty excited about that. And then there's been people who come with again what seem like physical issues. Some have been like, for example, some women who've had what seemed like reproductive issues, but it turned
Mm.
out to be other areas of their life. It happened to be karmas from ancestors or traumas, programming. All there's usually tons and tons of different things as you experience that come up. I mean, I'm cranking through. When we do the Yuen method, it's not therapy because we're not going to sit and talk. It's a very um, tell me 2 sentences at the most, and we're going to get in and we're going to clear, 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 clear. We're moving through a lot. We're clearing a lot of energy in a short amount of time. And that's really the purpose because it is a get it done. It is a doing kind of modality and approach. It's not a let's theorize. It comes from Dr. Yuen, who was a chiropractor, an aerospace engineer, and a 35th Kung Fu Shaolin, 35th generation Shaolin Kung Fu master. And all of those things really, in their own different ways, are focused on results. Where engineers always want to solve an issue. They don't want to sit and talk about it. They will talk about it only with the focus of actually getting a result. And same with Kung Fu, you can sit and theorize, but if you can't defend yourself against your opponent, then you haven't mastered. There's no results that you're getting. And same with a chiropractor as well. So he actually called it the science of immediate results. I'm trying to remember which thing I was talking about. Oh yeah,
No,
people.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, people. I want to say a couple of things here. Yeah, that's a good point you're making. I forgot to say at the beginning when I shared my experience with you that you don't really need to know what's going on. Like you essentially just like somebody can give you a sentence or like you really don't need to have a whole conversation about it. So that was really interesting to me. Yes. And then like I want to give the little disclaimer that of course anybody listening to this, if you're concerned about anything medical, this is not a medical podcast, so
Right.
please go to your doctor, and then
Of course. Yep.
and then also check out the mind body connection if that makes sense to you.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, these are all really, really powerful things. And yeah, I'm just curious, even for yourself, opening up, to this new knowledge and really embracing your intuitive side and taking the risk, of working for yourself. How have you changed over the years through
Oh
all this
wow.
work?
I think I really had to open up a lot to different ways of perceiving myself and what's possible. Also learning new skill sets. All that I've had to learn about being on social media, creating a YouTube channel, doing a YouTube channel. I mean, I'm still learning. I'm definitely don't feel like I'm some sort of master at any of those things, but being willing to put myself out there in that way. And it's interesting because that's been going on for the last few years. And now I'm coming to a place of, well, how much social media do I need to be doing? So it's an interesting, as I get more, as my intuition gets even stronger and stronger with every year, using that to sort out what is the best way to direct my business and coming back more and more to my own insights, which actually working with you was such a validation and a great support and director of that, of realizing that I actually have the answers inside. And it's great to hear all these other skills and take classes and courses. And there will be some things from there that are skills, like hard skills that I do and I will use, but not all of it.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up something really important, which is it can be overwhelming when we have our own business to think about what do I prioritize, what do I do, where I put my time. I
Yeah.
mean, it's interesting to me because again, we have a shared sort of understanding that we can follow our own inner knowing, right? And people have their well-being, we have our inner knowing. But still, when you're caught up in your life,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
right? Sometimes you need somebody to help you figure it out, or you need some energy help, right? Because it's yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But I know for me, being in business, one thing that I you know, I was so afraid of making mistakes,
Yes.
and I got more relaxed, which doesn't mean that I want to make mistakes, but you just sort of realize, it feels like it's the end of the world, but in reality,
Yep.
right? So that's been an important lesson for me, and also developing a little bit more of a muscle of I can direct my life a little bit. you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's the programs I've sunk a lot of money into that I was like, well, man, did not turn out how I thought it was going to, or programs for my business offerings that I thought were surely going to fly and landed like a lead balloon. And now it's, I would say more than ever, coming to a point of, okay, we're just don't, if it happens, it happens. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And coming back to the simplicity, I think, of what it is I offer, because I love working with clients and that's really what I want to do. And all this other stuff with the business is all this learning business training and taking courses and whatnot. It's great, but the fundamental is the fundamental. I'm here to work with clients, and that's what I want to
Mm.
make sure I'm always I'm finding that there's been periods of time where I've let all the other stuff kind of get in the way of that. And I think that's something that is so much more clear to me now, that it doesn't really matter all these social media and different ways of trying to find clients. It's just working with the clients and doing the energy. That's why I didn't want to have a day job anymore, because I like being in the energy of it and seeing people shift really quickly and improving their lives.
Wow, yeah, I can relate to a lot of the things you're saying. One thing that's coming up for me is that there is really something that can guide us. Like once we tune in, that points us towards how to serve others or how to get out there and connect, which is very powerful. And some of that happens with learning through trying things and seeing it's not our our jam. Um, what else do I want to ask you? Anything else that you want to share about the UN method, or what you do that maybe I haven't quite asked you about?
Sure. Well, let's see here. It might be helpful if I tell maybe a few other things that it's helped with. It's helped people. I tend to have some clients that come also for relationship issues, and that will be either marriage or wanting to date again, or it can also be their work relationships and also their relationship with themselves, which actually winds up happening a lot when they think that the issue is, oh man, this person is driving me crazy, whether it's a colleague or it's their partner. And then it comes down to it. And then I wind up, because I've had the experience myself, and it's like, well, you can get as bothered about all that, but it really boils down to your relationship with yourself. And that's all that this is. Certainly, we're clearing the traumas, the karmas, the programming, the dynamics, the whatever is behind all of that. And at the end of the day, every relationship it comes back to your relationship with yourself.
Sometimes a hard lesson to learn.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And also with finances, with people's money flow. And a lot of times what will seem like an issue with finances in that area of their life comes from a different area. And I should probably mention that in the Yuen method, there are what we call 6 leading life supports. And that is health, or actually, no, that would be the 6 leading life supports would be your your health, your money, finances, the youthfulness, fitness, relationships, and money. So those are different areas of life. And then it can be happening, or there could be issues or what we call weaknesses in one of those areas, and it could be happening on different levels. It can be physical or non-physical, which would be mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, or even psychic. So many times when I'm working with people, whatever is going on with them, one, it's not the issue, the real root of the issue is not what they think it is.
Mm.
It almost never is, because if it was really a money problem, then, and they think that it's a money problem, they tell themselves it's a money problem, and they pursue it from that angle, it would have resolved itself. But often a money problem will be a relationship issue, or it can be a fitness issue. And that doesn't mean fitness like being having super big muscles and being buff, but that means everything fitting in. So it can be on their physical body, or it can be aspects of their life, or it can be aspects of their business or their job, their career, things not fitting in and operating properly together. It can be the cells in their body not all connecting and coordinating with each other properly, or it can be they're in a work environment where things are not properly fitting in together. So works on different levels. And that's why the Yuen method is so why I love it too, because like I said, I do love mysteries. Is what I love about when I watch a mystery is like, okay, who did it? Who did it? And noticing how there's always like the characters who jump right to an obvious assumption. And then there's like the star of the show, the detective who's like, they maintain their neutrality or their objectivity. And that's why they're open to seeing what's really going on rather than assuming. And that's really the bottom line premise behind the Yuen method, which is it's never going to be what you think it is. We've got these different areas of life. We've got these different levels of being, and we be neutral and objective. And by doing that, we can find out what's actually happening, and we can remove it from you energetically. And then your system is going to, once that's gone, your system will realign itself and reset.
Yeah. Your system will flourish. That's what I was thinking. The system will
Yeah.
flourish, right? Yeah. So I have one last question because I ask everybody this question. It's a bit of a tradition. And actually, no, I have another question before this last question.
Oh,
I just
sure.
thought of a question that I want to ask you, but maybe you answered it already. Did you have doubts before making the career change? Like, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still sometimes have those.
What helped you with those?
I would say my mentors and
Mm.
actually using the Yuen method itself to clear those where's that coming from. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
mine, sometimes it's not even mine. And that, applies for clients as well. It's not always their stuff that they're dealing with. And then working on clients actually, because when I work on clients, it's always it reaffirms because I enjoy it, because I get to
Mhm.
connect to people with this really strong purpose, the really clear purpose. And it's a way of connecting that is beneficial for both of us. So I think working on clients itself actually removes the doubt as well, because I just get to see people shift so quickly and come back to themselves. It's like, oh, and then, because it can have those moments of like, oh yeah, man, this is awesome. And it's great to see this. Yes, I'm going to keep going.
That's fantastic. All right, for real, my last question. Well, there's
Okay.
actually one question after the last question, but you'll see.
It's okay.
The real last question. Um, so this has become a bit of a tradition, and my question for you is, what does inner wisdom mean to you?
Ooh, inner wisdom.
Mm.
Mm. I'm so I'm so trained with the Yuen method is become such a part of me now that I instantly go to inner wisdom being like your innate intelligence or your physical intelligence,
Mm.
which is what Dr. Yuen called it. And that is the knowing that we all living creatures have it. And for animals, it's there so naturally all the time. It's what they live by. Children as well, young children. But adults, that gets I don't want to say pounded out of us, but kind of, depending on our experience, it gets dampened and it gets shut down and turned off. And I would say getting back to that physical intelligence, which is just that where perceiving, you're intuiting, you're feeling. Get like you were talking about, you feel things in your stomach, having that gut feeling, and the knowing that you know who you are and what you need. Uh, that's not what everyone else is necessarily telling you. They're going to tell you their stories, but that's not necessarily you. Those times when you knew something, you thought something, and then everyone else was like, no, 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 it's this, it's that, and then it turned out you were right.
Yeah, I have stories. I think we all have stories. Like, we have our own inner, my inner wisdom is to guide me, your inner wisdom is to guide you, right? That's how I really, I think about it. It's for us. So sometimes it shares a message that we all feel, that's very common, universal. But sometimes the inner wisdom should up is like, this is the right, best next step for you, and it sounds crazy to everybody else.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. The thing that seems like you shouldn't do it because logically,
Mm-hmm.
conventionally,
Mm-hmm.
culturally, collectively, people tell you you shouldn't. Well, if I always listened to that, I wouldn't be here.
It also works the other way around, right? Sometimes the inner wisdom says, yes, what everybody else says to do is a really good idea. And so the trick, I don't know if you agree with this, but the trick is really to learn to recognize it. It's
Yes,
there. I
yes,
mean, you don't have to learn it. It's there. The thing is, we don't know how to recognize it.
yes. It's recognizing it and then acting upon it.
Yeah, valuing it, honoring it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, because I tell you, there's so many times in my life when I didn't listen to it, things did not turn out well. And I knew, and when I would look back, I'd be like, dang, I had that thought, that initial quick thought that you have, listen to that, because that, again, I guess going back to physical intelligence operates very quickly, right? Animals don't have to stretch out before they move. And kids don't stretch out before they go play, right? They don't have to do a warm up. They just do,
Oh, I never thought about that. I was
right?
thinking animals don't have to be pros and cons, don't have to do pros and cons list. Let me think about my next move. I'm gonna make a list. Can just imagine my cat doing that. Like,
Right. A cat doesn't think about, ooh, you know what? I don't know if I should have milk because I might be lactose intolerant and la la la. They
that
just
might not be their best thought though, to have the milk.
they
See what makes
know,
sense? Yeah.
right?
Because it makes them sick. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I like that you really mentioned this physical intelligence, because I think sometimes, again, we're encouraged to be very much in our head. And then even spiritual teachings sometimes can be very like, very good, but disconnected from the body, you know?
Right,
So I
right.
really appreciate how you talk about physical intelligence and bring it back to the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, this is the last question, which is, if somebody wants to work with you, learn more about you, get in touch with you, how do they find you?
Great question. They can check out my website, which is ccolleenoconnor.com. And that is C, like I am going to go see a movie, SEE. And the other thing they can do is they can check out my YouTube channel. They can actually see the Yuen Method in action, because I usually do a free group session once a month. And they can watch the old replays on there, or see when there's another one coming up if they actually want to check it out for themselves.
Fantastic. And yeah, try it out. If this intrigues you and you're listening to this, try it out. I was very surprised, I have to say. So that's why I wanted Colleen here to share with everybody. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up today's podcast. I want to thank you all for listening. My name is Aurora Menegallo. If you have any questions, want to get in touch, or explore working together, you can find me at repurposeyourpurpose.com. Thank you, Colleen, so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great fun.